I Hate Intros, Psychopath Season 1. We kick things off with a tense standoff between the main character Shinya Kogami going against a sinister antagonist named Shogo Makishima. But we're getting way ahead of ourselves, so let's jump back a bit. We get introduced to Inspector Akane Tsunemori, who's rushing onto a crime scene. She meets up with Nobuchika Ginozo, who she was assigned to as a new member of the Public Safety Bureau, which in this world are the guys who come after you when she's underage. They're going after a guy who was flagged by a street scanner and supposedly very dangerous. We're then introduced to the muscle of the group called Enforcers, which are criminals that act as hunting dogs to find other criminals. We have the main bro from the beginning, Shinya Kogami, Shusei Kagari, Yayoi Kunizuka, and Tomomi Masako. The weapons they use are called Dominators, which when pointed at a person determines their psychopath's levels. It then judges how much force is necessary to deal with the threat using the Sybil system. Akane is assigned to go with Kogami and Masaka as they spread out to find the suspect. Kagari finds him first as he's trying to rape a girl, so he has to take action. The suspect's crime coefficient is over 190, so the Dominator is set to stun, but he's on stimulant, so it doesn't work. After that, his score ramps up, so when Kogami gets the drop on him, his Dominator uses lethal force, and the perv goes pop. Because the victim he was trying to rape was under such harsh conditions, her score had skyrocketed, crossing into lethal force as well. Kogami sees this and he decides that he's gonna deal with her also. Akane begs him not to, but after being ignored, she is forced to shoot and paralyze Kogami to protect the girl. Episode 2. Strangely enough, even after that hectic situation, Akane's score, or hue, didn't change that much, indicating a high fortitude in her score. When she gets back to work, she meets with Shion Karaminori, who is an analyst at the Bureau and a latent criminal like the Enforcers. Kogami is still in the hospital recovering from the paralysis, and Akane regrets putting him there. A new threat is detected, so Misaka and Akane are sent out to deal with it. They use their futuristic technology to disguise themselves as robots and quickly apprehend the threat. When Kogami wakes up, Akane goes to apologize to him, but he doesn't hold anything against her. In fact, he is grateful because he was reminded that he wants to be a detective, not a mindless hunting dog. Episode 3. The gang are sent out to investigate a death caused by a drone. They suspect it was made to look like an accident, but in actuality, it was a murder. The facility is completely disconnected from outside networks to avoid hacking. This means that the Dominators can't access the Sybil system and won't work. Their primary suspect becomes one of the employees who is constantly bullied by the others. Kogami interrogates the man really aggressively, and this triggers him, so he tries activating his drones to kill Kogami. His score wasn't being affected by him killing people, which is why they had to lure him out using this tactic. The other Enforcers managed to set up a portable network bringing the Dominators online, and they quickly paralyze the culprit while destroying his killer drones as well. Episode 4. Everybody is investigating a new incident that left a man missing, and after checking his apartment, they find signs that he could have been murdered. The victim's avatar in virtual reality is very popular amongst the online community known as Talisman. Even though he is missing, his avatar is still being piloted by somebody, so they go to check it out in virtual reality. While there, Akane is brought into a chat room with Spooky Boogie. She fills Spooky Boogie in on a bit of what's going on, so Spooky Boogie schedules an IRL get-together which Talisman will have to attend or his popularity will plummet. While at the party, Akane tries to get close to use the Dominator to see his score, but a new character he's working for named Cho tips him off. They then hack all of the attendees' holo cosplays and switch them to the Talisman avatar so that he can escape in the crowd. The woman behind Spooky Boogie is then attacked in real life for her cooperation with the Bureau. The culprits then plan on becoming Spooky Boogie just like they did with Talisman. Episode 5. After studying Spooky Boogie's speech patterns, Kogami figured out that somebody else was piloting the character. They follow this up and go to her place in real life, nearly getting blown up by a bomb that was placed there. After thinking about it, they figure out that the murderer has to be a fan to imitate their avatars perfectly. They track users that went offline after the victims die and find his identity, Masatake Mido. He gets caught out at his apartment, forcing him to flee while taking a shot from Kogami. The other agents find him at his second place while having a meltdown and they kill him. We get a little backstory on Kogami when Akane finds out that he used to be an inspector, but his score fell apart after dealing with a case case, leading to his demotion to enforcer. Episode 6. We get some more details on Kogami and his last case as inspector, where one of his friends working the case, Sasayama, wound up being a victim. In the end, the specimen case was never solved and Kogami is still obsessed with it and avenging his friend. Jump over to some students where Rikako, one of the more popular girls at the school, recruits another girl into her art club. We then go over to the interrogation of the drone murderer, who tells them that he was sent the codes to turn the drones into killers by a new mastermind. Kogami suspects the same man that killed his partner 3 years ago, as he would enable people to kill by giving them the tools to do so. A schoolgirl's body is later found displayed as an art piece. Meanwhile, in the art club, Rikako draws messed up pictures while the man who squared off with Kogami in episode 1 and the presumed mastermind sits behind her. Episode 7. The artistic murder is too close to the specimen case, so Kogami is taken off of it. Back to the students, where the new art club recruit is now missing and her friends are talking about it. One of her friends had heard that Rikako was seen with her, so she goes to ask if she knows anything. This leads to her being turned into a messed up art display along with her now dead friend. Episode 8. Kogami gets a hunch that the killer could have something to do with Rikako because of the connection between the way the bodies were displayed and her dead father's artwork. When they go to question her, she bolts and manages to get away because of a teacher interfering. They have security pictures of her going into the garbage disposal facility, and once inside they find the next art piece with the 2 missing girls. While going over the other security footage, a lot of it was tampered with, but they managed to recover sound from one clip with Makishima's name on it. In the last scene, Makishima betrays Rikako and has a mysterious hunter with robot dogs blow her head off. Episode 9. The creepy hunter is revealed as Toyohisa Senguji and is entirely cyborg except for his brain. Kogami and Akane go to Kogami's former teacher, Joshi Saiga, who aids in the investigation. Makishima talks with Senguji about having him kill Kogami. Meanwhile, Ginoza gets pissed that Akane went with Kogami to see Joshi, and they end up getting into a fight over it. He's worried about Akane's score rising too much and having her career ruined, which is what happened to his father and Kogami. Episode 10. Akane asks Kogami to go with her to try and find her friend that went missing named Yuki. Kogami goes into an abandoned subway line where he finds Yuki, but they end up getting isolated from the others. They are brought to Senguji's hunting ground where he tries to kill them while Makishima watches as a third party. After a couple of near-death instances, Kogami manages to get a hold of the others and relay their position. Episode 11. When the others arrive at the hunting ground, they send a drone in that manages to find Kogami and deliver him a Dominator, which allows him to fight back. Yuki is able to lure Senguji into a trap, giving Kogami the opening to land the killing blow. Although the threat is down, Kogami is still injured, which allows Makishima to step in and take Yuki. Akane arrives shortly after and finds Kogami to then rush ahead to stop Makishima. She finds them both on a catwalk, and Makishima decides that he wants to test Akane. Her Dominator won't release the safety because for some reason his score isn't high at all, and in fact is even dropping. He drops his shotgun down to her and says that if she wants to kill him, she has to do it without the Sybil system's help. The pressure gets to her when she tries to use the shotgun, and she ends up wasting both of the shots. Makishima is disappointed that she didn't kill him, so as punishment, he slits Yuki's throat, killing her. Episode 12. We get a flashback 3 years ago of the less talked about enforcer, Yayoi. She is a former musician that was institutionalized as a latent criminal. Kogami brings her onto an investigation to help with the case because she knew the area. While on the case, we get some Yuri action when she runs into her old crush, Rina. Rina turns out to actually be a part of the group of criminals that they're trying to stop, and she tries to recruit Yayoi. Yayoi refuses and tries to use a Dominator, but she isn't authorized because she's not an enforcer, allowing Rina to get away. This leads to Yayoi asking Kogami if she could become an enforcer. Episode 13. Back to the present, Ginoza meets with the head of the bureau, Joshu Kase, concerning Makishima. She ends up revealing the identity of the one actually responsible for the specimen case, Tomo Kozaburo, who who's criminally asymptomatic, and the Bureau made him disappear. Being asymptomatic means that the Sybil system can't measure him, just like Makishima. In order to prevent doubt in the Sybil system, he is ordered to bring back Makishima alive. Meanwhile, Akane volunteers for a memory scoop, which is a dangerous procedure, but they manage to get an image of Makishima from what she saw. We also find out that Masuka is actually Ginoza's father that was demoted from inspector to enforcer like Kogami. Episode 14. A new criminal in a fancy helmet kills 2 people at a pharmacy while trying to obtain drugs. His score never went too high, and they assume that it's because of the helmet. There's a second incident of a man with the same helmet beating a woman to death in the middle of a busy street that gets posted online. After some digging, they find out that the helmet mimics nearby people's scores to throw off the Sybil system. They track down the man responsible for the beating, but he slips by them because his helmet picks up on Akane's score. She stays behind so that they can use their dominators, and they quickly apprehend him. Episode 15. Hundreds of cases start popping up of helmet users committing crimes, sending the entire city into chaos. The public aim to take revenge on the helmet users while the Bureau struggles to maintain any order. Kogami figures that Makishima is the one behind this, and this is just a piece of his plan. He realizes that the riots are actually a distraction to pull police away from Nona Tower, where the Sybil system's core is located. Episode 16. Makishima and his partner in crime, Cho, get to the tower where they split up so Makishima can lure Kogami away while Cho goes to destroy the Sybil system's core. Kogami, Kagami, and Akane arrive shortly after and split up as well, with Kogami going to the top floor with Akane and Kagami heading to the basement. Kogami fights with some henchmen, and at long last we made it back to the opening of episode 1 where Kogami comes face to face with Makishima. They get into a pretty sick fight, and just before Kogami gets stabbed, Akane jumps in to knock Makishima unconscious with her helmet. She contemplates killing him to avenge her friend, but can't bring herself to do it, and places him under arrest instead. Over to Kagami, who caught up to Cho as they both find the core of the Sybil system. The head of the Bureau, Kase, sneaks up behind them and reveals that she is actually a cyborg that overrides her dominator to kill both Cho and Kagami. She had to kill them to prevent them from talking about what they saw in the core. Episode 17. The next day, in the aftermath, the city is in shambles and Kagami is labeled missing. Kase tells Ginoza that Makishima is going to be taken off their hands without them interrogating or prosecuting him, which pisses pretty much everybody off. Makishima is then visited by Kase, who reveals herself as Kozaburo, the murderer in the specimen case, who is sharing a cybernetic body with Kase and the Sybil system. The Sybil system is actually a supercomputer network that is made up of human brains that are criminally asymptomatic, like Makishima. She tries to convince Makishima to become a part of the Sybil system, but he declines respectfully while attacking her body and destroying it. He then goes on to escape from his transport and goes missing. Episode 18. Ginoza is tasked with finding Makishima again while still prioritizing his safety over everything else. Kase orders that Kogami not go into the field because he might kill Makishima. Ginoza doesn't agree with this call, so he tries to find a loophole to get Kogami into the field without getting caught. Kase picks up on this plan and stomps it out before Kogami could escape. She then tries to convince Ginoza to kill Kogami, but Akane steps in to paralyze him instead, saving his life. When he wakes up, he convinces Shion to lend him one of the helmets. Masuka gives him keys to a safe house, and he goes out on his own, leaving a letter for Akane saying that he's going after Makishima. Episode 19. Kogami stays with Saigo while he's laying low and trying to find out where Makishima might be. The two of them do some digging and come to the conclusion that Makishima's next target is Japan's food supply in the form of an unmanned hyper oats facility. Over to Akane, who is contacted by the Sybil system, which tells her that they're going to explain the truth. Episode 20. The Sybil system leads Akane to its core, where she learns that it's made up of human minds. They then ask for her cooperation in detaining Makishima alive. Meanwhile, Makishima finds the professor responsible for the Hyper Oats and learns everything he needs to know in order to get into the facility before killing him. Back over to Akane, who agrees to help the Sybil system, but in return, she asks that Kogami be left unharmed. Kogami finds the dead professor and leaves a recording at the murder scene to let the others know that the target is the Hyper Oats granary. Episode 21. Kogami arrives at the facility first, with the others showing up soon after. Akane has the Sybil system lock her Dominator to the non-lethal paralysis mode so she doesn't kill Kogami. They shut off the power to the facility, and Akane along with Yayoi go to the control room to prevent Makishima from accessing the emergency power. Ginoza and Masaka trip a wire, causing an explosion, leaving Ginoza pinned under debris. Makishima comes out and fights with Masaka, and Masaka gets the upper hand, so Makishima throws a bomb towards his son. This forces Masaka to decide between saving Ginoza or apprehending Makishima. Of course, Masaka goes to save his son, but as he tries to throw the bomb away, it blows up, dealing fatal damage to him, and he dies shortly after. Kogami arrives just in time to see this and goes after Makishima. Episode 22. Kogami catches up to Makishima and they have a little skirmish where Kogami gets the upper hand with Makishima being disarmed. He rushes in with a knife, but before he can land the killing blow, Akane throws a paralysis grenade between the both of them, allowing Makishima to escape. She then convinces Kogami to help her go after him, but takes his revolver away and gives him her Dominator that's set to stun. Makishima attempts to escape in a truck, but Akane jumps on the back of it, leaving Kogami behind. She manages to shoot out the front tire, causing the truck to crash. Makishima tries to flee on foot, and Akane is too injured to go after him. Kogami reaches her and retrieves his revolver before chasing after Makishima. He isn't going anywhere fast because of the crash, along with the stab wound he sustained, so Kogami catches up to him shortly after. Kogami then goes on to execute him, finally putting an end to his reign of terror. We jump ahead a bit and learn that the Sybil system determined that Akane can still be of use, so they keep her alive despite her failure. After the death of his father, Ginoza's score had risen too much, so he gets demoted to Enforcer. Kogami is now missing and on the run to avoid the consequences of killing Makishima. I'm gonna be doing the future seasons, and that'll be in the bottom left whenever I'm finished with it, or you can check out all the Psychopaths recaps in this playlist here. You can also find the links in the description below, and the only thing I hate more than intros is outros.